The auction ended with laughter. Not the joyful kind, but the sharp, careless sound of beings who had already taken what they wanted and were ready to leave the rest behind. Cages slid shut one by one, credits exchanged, ownership transferred with glowing seals and bored gestures. The strong ones were gone. The loud ones. The useful ones. Only one cage remained. She sat inside it, knees drawn close to her chest, fingers wrapped tightly around her own arms as if holding herself together required effort. Her skin was a muted silver grey, dulled by dust and neglect. Faint markings ran along her neck and wrists, half-faded symbols of a people no one cared to remember. One of her ears bent slightly at the tip, healed wrong after an old injury. Her eyes stayed lowered. Above her cage, a flickering sign pulsed weakly. Unfit. No market value. The auctioneer, a thick-bodied alien with plated skin and a voice tuned for cruelty, struck the bars with his staff. The sound echoed too loudly in the now thinning crowd. "This one didn't sell," he announced, irritation clear. "Defective neural response. Poor stamina. No aggression. No entertainment value." A few buyers paused only long enough to glance at her. One snorted. "She doesn't even look like she'd survived transport." Another shook their head. "Why waste credits on something broken?" The auctioneer sneered and waved a dismissive limb. "Scrap her later. Or leave her. Doesn't matter." The words landed heavier than chains. She did not flinch. She had learned not to. Long ago, reacting only made things worse. Instead, she focused on breathing slowly, quietly, counting the beats the way she used to when panic threatened to rise. Once, she had been more than this. Once, she had mapped asteroid fields for fleets that trusted her instincts with their lives. Once, her kind had been valued for seeing paths where others saw nothing. But wars ended. Borders shifted. And usefulness, she learned, was temporary. The crowd thinned. Neon lights dimmed. The metallic jungle of the auction ground grew quieter, colder. That was when the human stopped. He wasn't impressive. No armored escort. No towering height. Just a man in a worn jacket with frayed seams and boots that had seen too many docks and not enough rest. His hair was dark, eyes tired but alert, the kind of eyes that watched instead of judged. He stood in front of her cage longer than anyone else had. She felt it before she looked up. When she did, their eyes met. There was no hunger in his gaze. No calculation. No ownership already forming behind the stare. Just curiosity. "That sign," he said aloud, more to himself than anyone else. "That's a hell of a thing to put over a person." The auctioneer scoffed. If she were a person, she'd have sold. The human didn't respond right away. He crouched slightly to be closer to her eye level, resting his elbows on his knees. "Do you speak Galactic?" She hesitated, then nodded once. "Good," he said gently. "Because I hate guessing." The auctioneer rolled his eyes. "Look, human, she's worthless. You want something useful, I've got." "How much?" the human interrupted. The auctioneer blinked. "What?" "For her." A pause fell over the space, thin and sharp. The auctioneer laughed. "You serious? She's damaged goods. No guarantees. No returns." "That's fine." A nearby buyer turned, surprised. "You're paying for that one." The human stood. "I am." The auctioneer leaned closer, lowering his voice. "She won't fight for you. Won't perform. Won't make you rich." The human met his gaze calmly. "I'm not buying a tool." Silence followed. Numbers were exchanged. Lower than any price the auctioneer had announced all day. The kind of number that made it clear no one else would have bothered. The lock disengaged with a soft hiss. She flinched at the sound despite herself. The door opened. For a long moment, she did not move. The human waited. No shouting. No orders. Just patience. Slowly, she stood and stepped out of the cage, feet unsteady on the open floor. The space felt too wide. Too exposed. She expected hands to grab her, restraints to snap closed again. None did. Can you walk? He asked. Yes, she said quietly. Good, he replied. Then let's leave. They walked away under flickering lights and watching eyes. Behind them, the auctioneer spat on the floor and muttered something about stupid humans. Outside, the air felt different. Less heavy. A battered shuttle waited nearby, its hull scarred but intact. The human gestured toward it. I'm called Aaron, he said as they approached. You don't have to tell me your name. Not now. She hesitated, then spoke anyway. I don't have a short one. He smiled faintly. Then we'll take our time. As the ramp closed and the engines powered up with a rough but determined hum, she sat quietly, hands folded in her lap, unsure what came next. For the first time in a long time, no one was telling her what she was worth. And somewhere in the auction ground behind them, beings who had laughed and turned away had no idea what they had just lost. Because the human hadn't chosen her for profit. He had chosen her because he saw value where others refused to look. And that choice was about to change everything. The shuttle smelled like old metal and warm circuitry. Not unpleasant, just lived in. Like a place that had survived too many close calls and kept going anyway. The floor panels didn't match, the seats were patched with fabric that looked stitched by hand, and one overhead light blinked in a slow, stubborn rhythm as if refusing to die. She sat near the ramp with perfect stillness, back straight, hands folded. Years of training had taught her how to disappear in plain sight. If she took up less space, maybe the universe would forget she existed. Aaron moved around the cockpit with practiced ease, adjusting switches and tapping a cracked screen that responded a beat late. He didn't look at her too much, and she noticed that. Some captors stared like hunters. Others stared like collectors. Aaron stared like someone trying not to scare a wounded animal. Seat harness works, he said casually. Most of the time. If it doesn't, just hold on and pretend it's part of the adventure. She didn't answer. The engines coughed once, twice, then steadied into a vibrating hum. The shuttle lifted away from the auction ground, the neon jungle shrinking beneath them until it became a smear of color in the darkness. Only then did she allow herself a breath. Aaron leaned back slightly, eyes forward. You hungry? She flinched at the word. Hunger meant weakness. Hunger meant punishment. I don't know, she said carefully. Fair, Aaron replied. I've got ration bars. And a heat pack. Not fancy, but it won't poison you. Probably. She watched him pull a small packet from a storage bin and place it on a side table, close enough for her to reach, far enough that it didn't feel forced. Then he turned away again, giving her space. For several minutes, the only sound was the engine and the gentle tick of the blinking light. Finally, she spoke. Why did you buy me? Aaron didn't answer immediately. He kept his hands on the controls, as if the question required steady flying. Because you were left behind, he said at last. That's not an answer, she replied. Aaron glanced at her, not offended, just thoughtful. Okay. Because everyone else looked at you and saw a problem. And I'm tired of living in a galaxy where the easiest thing is to walk away. Her throat tightened. She hated that feeling. It made her voice unstable. You don't even know what I am, she said quietly. I know what you were treated like, Aaron answered. That's enough for a start. She looked down at the ration bar, then at her hands. Her wrists still felt strange without restraints. You think you're saving me, she said. Aaron's jaw tensed slightly. I think I'm giving you a choice. A choice. The word sounded dangerous. Like stepping onto thin ice. The shuttle shuddered as it reached open space. Stars spread across the viewport in silent brilliance, uncaring and endless. Aaron tapped a control and activated a small translator drone. It hovered near her seat, projecting soft light. I don't know your name, Aaron said. But I'd like to. She hesitated. Her real name was a complex pattern of tones, clicks, and harmonic frequencies, more like music than speech. It carried lineage, homeland, and the unique rhythm of her mind. Most species couldn't say it. Humans couldn't even hear half of it. I don't have a name you can speak, she admitted. Aaron nodded as if that was normal. Then we'll make one you don't hate. She looked at him sharply. You would rename me. No, Aaron said quickly. Only if you want it. A shortcut. Something for day-to-day. She stared at the stars for a long moment, then whispered, Zera. Aaron repeated it slowly. Zera. She flinched. Not because he said it wrong, but because he said it gently. It's close, she said. Then it's yours, Aaron replied. Zera's chest felt tight again, but this time it wasn't fear alone. It was something else, something she didn't trust. The shuttle's console beeped. Aaron frowned. We've got company. He tapped the screen. A signal had locked onto them, short range, aggressive. The auction ground was already behind them, but someone had followed. Zera's blood ran cold. They're coming for me. Aaron's eyes narrowed. Maybe. Or maybe they're coming because someone doesn't like humans making bad purchases. The communicator crackled. A harsh alien voice spilled through. Human shuttle. You have stolen property. Power down and prepare for inspection. Aaron exhaled slowly. Of course. Zera's hands curled into fists. If they take me back. They won't, Aaron said firmly. She stared at him. You can't fight them. Aaron gave a small, grim smile. I'm not planning to. I'm planning to outthink them. The pursuing craft closed fast, a sleek pirate interceptor with shield plating and a bright plasma nose. It fired a warning shot that flashed across the void, close enough to heat Aaron's hull. Zera's breath came faster. Her muscles remembered cages. Chains. Pain. Aaron's voice stayed calm. Zera, can you do something for me? What? Look at that ship, he said. And tell me what you see. She blinked, confused. I see a predator. Look deeper, Aaron urged. You were a scout, right? You mapped the dangerous paths. Zera focused. Really focused. The interceptor's movement wasn't smooth. Its left thrusters burned slightly uneven. Its shield shimmered out of sync. A cheap retrofit. A rushed job. It's damaged, she said. And overconfident. Aaron's grin returned, sharper now. Perfect. He flipped a switch. Lucy, his battered shuttle, coughed like it was offended, then surged forward with surprising speed. The pirate ship followed, firing again. Aaron didn't evade toward open space. He aimed straight for an asteroid belt. Zera's eyes widened. That's suicide. Aaron shook his head. That's where humans feel at home. The asteroid belt loomed ahead, massive rocks tumbling in chaotic patterns. No clean lanes. No predictable flow. A nightmare for pilots who relied on perfect math. Aaron's hands tightened on the controls. Now, Zera, tell me the safe path. Her heart slammed. She stared at the moving field, and something old and buried stirred inside her. Not fear. Not panic. Skill. She saw the gaps. The timing. The hidden lanes that existed only for a moment before closing. Left, she said sharply. Now. Then down. Then hard right. Aaron obeyed instantly. Lucy slipped into the chaos like she belonged there. The pirate ship hesitated at the belt's edge, then followed anyway. Overconfidence. Zera's voice rose, fast and clear. 2 seconds. Cut speed. Roll. Now. Aaron rolled the shuttle. A boulder passed inches from the hull. The pirate ship clipped it. A shower of sparks and debris exploded behind them. Zera stared, stunned. Aaron laughed. One sharp burst of joy. That's it. That's you. She felt her chest tighten again, but this time it was warmth mixed with disbelief. She wasn't useless. Not to him. The pirate ship recovered, limping, still chasing, but now it was angry, reckless. Aaron glanced at Zera. One more thing. Can you handle pressure? Zera's eyes narrowed. I was sold at auction. Aaron nodded. Good answer. He pointed ahead. A massive asteroid rotated slowly, cracked down the middle, creating a narrow tunnel of darkness straight through its core. Aaron smiled like a man with a terrible idea. We're going through, he said. Zera's blood turned to ice. That tunnel will collapse, she warned. Aaron's eyes burned with stubborn confidence. Then guide me before it does. Zera swallowed hard, and leaned forward, eyes locked on the impossible path. Because for the first time in years, someone wasn't asking what she was worth. They were asking what she could do. And Zera was about to remember. The tunnel swallowed them. Stone and metal blurred into a rushing spiral as Lucy dove into the asteroid's cracked core. The walls were too close, rotating slowly, shedding pebbles and dust that glittered like shrapnel in the engine light. Zera's breath came fast, but her mind went still. Hold that line, she said, voice steady. Don't fight the spin. Let it carry us. Aaron didn't argue. He never did. He trusted her hands and her instincts the way captains once had. Lucy groaned, bolts rattling, but she obeyed physics that weren't written in any manual. The pirate interceptor plunged in behind them, hungry and loud. Its shields scraped the tunnel wall, flaring. Zera saw the microshifts, the timing windows that opened and closed like eyelids. Now, she said. Feather left. Then cut. Aaron cut. Lucy slid into a pocket of stillness inside the chaos. The interceptor overshot, slammed its shields into a narrowing seam, and vanished in a storm of debris and static. Silence followed, thick, ringing silence. Lucy burst out the far side of the asteroid into open space, stars flaring wide and clean. Aaron let out a breath that sounded like a laugh and a prayer combined. Zera sagged back into her seat, hands shaking. You did that, Aaron said, all plain in his voice. No, she replied, staring at her palms. I remembered. They didn't speak for a while. Space stretched around them, quiet and forgiving. Zera felt something unfamiliar settle into her chest. Not relief, exactly. Recognition. Aaron set a course toward a fringe station. Small, human-built, patched together by necessity and stubbornness. No grand arches. No polished banners. Just spinning habitats and docking arms that looked like they'd been repaired a dozen times with whatever was on hand. Why here? Zera asked. Because nobody asks too many questions, Aaron said. And because humans build places for people who don't fit. The station welcomed them with a clang and a hiss. Inside, the corridors were narrow, busy, and warm. Humans moved with purpose, trading nods, jokes, and tools. Other species were there too, scarred, mismatched, alive. Zera felt eyes on her. Curious. Cautious. Not predatory. Aaron led her to a small workshop that smelled of oil and hot metal. A woman with grease-streaked hands looked up from a disassembled engine core. Trouble? She asked. Always, Aaron said. But not the kind we can't handle. He gestured to Zera. This is Zera. She's a navigator. The woman studied Zera for half a second. Cool. We're short 3. Zera blinked. What? We lost our best scout last month, the woman continued. Burned out his implants trying to run a debris storm. If you can see paths others miss, you're hired. No interview. No proof demanded. No cage. Zera's throat tightened. You don't even know if I'm safe. The woman shrugged. Nobody here is. That's the point. They put Zera to work that same cycle. Simulations first, dense fields, collapsing orbits, shifting grave wells. She saw the answers before the screens finished drawing them. The room went quiet as she guided a cargo tug through a storm that had eaten 2 ships the week before. Aaron watched from the doorway, arms crossed, smiling like he'd been right all along. Word spread fast. The worthless one from the auction could do things the market had forgotten how to price. But attention cuts both ways. 3 days later, station alarms chimed, polite, insistent. A corporate security cruiser slid into docking range, sleek and confident. Its emblem belonged to the same syndicate that ran the auction. They filed a claim, Aaron said, reading the notice. Says you're stolen property. Zera's shoulders tensed. Old fear rose, sharp and familiar. Aaron looked at her. We don't have to answer. She took a breath. Yes. We do. They met the syndicate's representative in a glass-walled chamber overlooking the docks. He smiled like a knife. You were sold defective, he said. Your purchase violates no law, but her use does. Return her, and we'll forget this. Zera folded her hands, steady. You can't own what you don't understand. The representative laughed. Understanding is irrelevant. Aaron leaned forward. Not to humans. He tapped a control. The wall display lit up with recordings, flight data from the asteroid belt, successful runs through storms the syndicate had labeled impassable. Credits lost because they'd chosen certainty over possibility. You threw away your best navigator, Aaron said. Because she didn't fit your box. The representative's smile faded. Data can be manipulated. Zera met his gaze. Then come test me. Silence stretched. The syndicate ship departed without another word. After that, jobs came faster. Dangerous ones. The kind that paid because no one else would take them. Zera guided convoys through collapsing rings, mapped safe windows through radiation blooms, and found lanes that existed only for heartbeats. She wasn't loud. She didn't boast. She worked. And humans noticed. They noticed how she listened. How she learned their tools, then improved them. How she shared credit and taught others to see what she saw. Aaron found her one cycle perched by a viewport, watching ships come and go. You could leave, he said. Take your skills anywhere. She shook her head. I'm not finished. With what? With becoming, she said. You gave me a choice. I'm still choosing. The station thrummed, alive. A place built by people who refused to be sorted. Far away, in rooms polished and cruel, the syndicate recalculated. They flagged Zera's profile. They tagged Aaron's shuttle. They adjusted their models to account for an error they hated to admit. Humans did not measure value the same way. And that difference, small, stubborn, human, was starting to cost them. Because once someone learns they are not useless, they stop being easy to control. The syndicate did not forget. They simply changed tactics. The first sign was subtle, a delay in docking clearance. Then a sudden audit. Then a polite request for Zera to appear before a neutral arbitration council. Humans on the station recognized the pattern immediately. Pressure before force. Paperwork before chains. Aaron read the notice twice, jaw tight. They're building a case. Not against you, against us. Zera stood beside him, calm on the surface, storm beneath. They want to make an example. Yes, Aaron said. Of the idea that people aren't inventory. The station council convened that same cycle. Humans crowded the chamber, engineers, pilots, medics, traders. No uniforms. No single authority. Just a shared line they didn't want crossed. They can't legally take her, someone said. They don't need to, another replied. They'll shut us down. Block supplies. Claim we're harboring stolen property. Zera listened, then spoke. Her voice carried without effort. I won't hide. Aaron turned to her. You don't have to face them alone. I won't, she said. But running tells them they were right. The syndicate arrived with ceremony, 2 escorts, polished hulls, banners of ownership glowing along their sides. Their representative walked the corridor like he already owned it, smile fixed, eyes cold. This station is in violation, he announced. We will reclaim our asset. Zera stepped forward before anyone else could. You sold me. The representative's smile thinned. As defective. And yet, she said, your records show losses in every route you declared impassable. Losses that stopped after I navigated them for humans. A ripple moved through the chamber. The representative scoffed. Talent does not negate ownership. Aaron cut in. Then let's test ownership. He gestured to the display.
Oui, propose à trial run.
Your best navigator versus Zera. Same route. Same ship class. Public data. The representative hesitated. Just a fraction. If we win. Zera met his gaze. I go with you. And if you lose? Aaron asked. The representative's smile returned, sharp. Impossible. They chose the Gravewake Corridor, a region of collapsing gravity wells and radiation blooms that shifted without warning. The Syndicate's navigator was legendary. Augmented. Certified. Expensive. The run began. 2 ships entered the corridor. Feeds streamed live. Calculations poured in from the Syndicate vessel. Perfect arcs, precise corrections. Zera closed her eyes. She didn't calculate. She listened. To the rhythm of collapse. To the spaces between flares. To the moments that felt wrong, and therefore right. Now, she whispered. Lucy surged. The Syndicate ship hesitated, its models screaming risk. That pause cost them. A grave well snapped shut behind Zera's path, sealing the lane. Lucy emerged on the far side alone. The chamber went silent. Data confirmed it. Zera's route existed for seconds, and only because she trusted it. The representative stared at the display, then at Zera. This proves nothing. It proves everything, Aaron said. You didn't lose an asset. You discarded a person. The council's vote was swift. The Syndicate withdrew its claim. But humiliation has consequences. As the Syndicate ships departed, their leader sent a final message, quiet, venomous. This is not over. Zera felt it then. The pushback wasn't just corporate. Other powers were watching, measuring, deciding if humans' way of valuing people was a threat to the old order. Aaron found Zera later, alone by the viewport. You did great. She nodded, then exhaled. They won't stop. No, he agreed. But neither will we. Outside, ships moved through lanes Zera had opened. Commerce flowed where fear had ruled. Small changes. Human changes. And somewhere far beyond the station, the galaxy adjusted its assumptions, angry that a simple choice had exposed a flaw it could no longer ignore. Because when humans choose someone the universe calls worthless, they don't just save a life. They challenge a system. And systems push back hardest when they know they're wrong. The galaxy did not collapse when the Syndicate retreated. That surprised a lot of people. Trade lanes stayed open. Stations kept running. Ships still flew. Life continued, stubborn and ordinary. But beneath the surface, something irreversible had shifted, quietly, without ceremony. Zera felt it first. Not fear. Not excitement. Respect. It came in small ways. Pilots waited for her input before launching. Engineers asked what she felt about a route, not just what the numbers said. Humans listened in a way no auction crowd ever had. Aaron noticed too. You walk differently now, he said one cycle, watching her cross the hangar floor. Like you know where you're going. Zera considered that. I know I'm allowed to. The station grew. Not larger in size, but in gravity. Ships docked that hadn't before. Crews stayed. Stories spread. A human station where value wasn't decided by aggression or profit alone. That made powerful people nervous. A delegation arrived weeks later, not corporate, not criminal. Government-backed. Polished. Dangerous in a quieter way. They met in the same glass chamber. You are destabilizing established labor markets, the lead envoy said calmly. Your actions set precedents. Aaron leaned back. Precedents are just the future showing up early. Zera stood beside him. No cage. No chains. No lowered eyes. You want to regulate choice, she said. Because choice can't be controlled. The envoy's gaze hardened. You were property. I was treated like property, Zera replied. That does not make it true. Silence followed. Humans in the chamber didn't cheer. They didn't shout. They simply stood, engineers, pilots, medics, shoulder to shoulder. A quiet line. The envoy left without agreement. After that, things moved faster. Other species began to ask questions. Former slaves. Discarded workers. Those labeled inefficient or defective. They came to human stations, not because humans promised safety, but because humans promised choice. And humans adapted. They rewrote contracts. Redesigned ships. Built mixed crews that worked not because they were optimized, but because they trusted one another. Zera trained others to see the paths she saw. She never kept her knowledge to herself. Humans noticed that too. You could be irreplaceable, someone told her once. She shook her head. Then I'd just be valuable in another cage. Aaron smiled when he heard that. The syndicate tried one last move, a quiet assassination attempt, badly planned, relying on fear and secrecy. It failed. Not because Zera fought back. Because humans noticed. Because humans shared information faster than intimidation could spread. Because they protected one of their own not out of obligation, but because it felt right. The message that followed spread farther than the attack ever could. Humans do not return people they have chosen. The galaxy learned. Slowly. Reluctantly. Zera stood on the station's outer ring months later, watching a new route open, one she had mapped, one that would feed entire systems. Aaron joined her, hands in his pockets. If I hadn't stopped that day. She shook her head. Someone would have. Eventually. He raised an eyebrow. You sure? She looked at him, ears lifting slightly. No. But you did. And that mattered. Below them, ships moved through safe passageways that hadn't existed before. Not because of power. Not because of conquest. Because a human had looked at someone labeled worthless and asked a different question. Not what can she do for me, but who is she? The galaxy would take time to adjust. Systems always resisted change. But Zera no longer feared that. She had learned something the auction ground never taught her. Worth was not assigned. It was recognized. And once recognized, it could never be taken away again. End.